If you ever think about filming yourself while you sleep, think twice, or better yet, just throw that idea out of your head altogether. This happened 7 years ago. Back then, I was just an ordinary first-year student. Actually, this isn't even really my story, but there's no one else left to tell it. There was a girl studying with me, a straight-A student, pathologically honest, her parents' pride, you get the idea. She was either my third cousin or honestly who knows how many times removed. Basically, a distant relative from another city. Her parents rented her a small one-room apartment in our city and she lived there quietly. But one weekend something strange happened. At first I didn't think much of it. As it turned out later, I shouldn't have. I remember that day and that hour perfectly as if it were yesterday. She came running at about 9 in the morning, tears streaming down her face. She was shaking with sobs and couldn't calm down. It was only after about 40 minutes that she pulled herself together and was able to tell me what had happened. As it turned out, she had a secret hobby, reading scary stories, watching all sorts of creepy videos and things like that. Before going to bed, she set up a camera facing her bed and went to sleep, hoping to catch something unusual. Then she started telling me about something strange. The thought even crossed my mind that, left without her parents' supervision, she might have taken something she shouldn't have. But like I said, now I really regret not believing her back then. Anyway, she transferred the video from the camera to her laptop and started watching the footage. At first, she was just tossing and turning from side to side. Then, according to her, she looked away from the screen for just a couple of seconds to catch a fly or something like that. When she looked back at the monitor, as she put it, she got goosebumps all over her back. In the video, she lifted her head and started looking at the camera with a surprised expression on her face. She described it as wide-open eyes, raised eyebrows, but a completely smooth forehead, and a sort of slight smile. It's the way a curious cat looks when it sees something tasty in your hands. What was unusual about this face was that the pupils were wide, so wide that you could barely see the irises. She kept staring from the monitor for several minutes without blinking or moving. My sister even thought that the laptop had frozen and the frame was stuck. But then she noticed something that simply couldn't be. At that time, she had dark hair in a short cut, and one strand on top was dyed a bright purple. But now she saw that strand somewhere around the neck of the other version of herself, the one staring from the monitor. Which was impossible since the strand was too short. It was as if her head was calmly resting on the pillow and something else, nestled on top, was the one looking into the camera. Before she continued her story, my sister stammered and trembled for several minutes, asking me if I would think she was crazy and whether I would tell anyone else so that no one would call her that. Of course, I promised that nothing of the sort would happen. As soon as she thought about that strand, something happened that triggered all of her hysteria. She swears that what happened next was this. Her own face, which had been staring motionlessly into the camera with huge pupils for about 10 minutes, suddenly stretched vertically in just a couple of seconds. Her mouth opened unnaturally wide. She said that a fist could easily fit inside, and her lower jaw shifted to the side along with her face, forming something like the letter C. She immediately closed the player window, and at this point she continued telling the story through sobs. She saw that this nightmarishly distorted face was now set as her desktop background. She rushed to delete it and saw that all the images had been replaced with this filth. And instead of music, all the files now played some kind of hissing with a barely audible, nerve-wracking knocking in the background. I advised her to calm down and decided to go to her place myself to clean her computer of viruses. She immediately agreed and we went to her place. Everything actually turned out like this. Those creepy images were on the desktop. Honestly, when I first saw them, I got scared myself, though I didn't show it. After all, someone had to figure out what was going on. At that moment, I thought that maybe some prankster had photoshopped her face and sent it to her. You never know. There are always jealous people and mean jokers around. Anyway, I spent about half an hour and removed all those creepy things from her computer. After that, nothing like that ever appeared again, as she later told me. About a year passed after that, and nothing out of the ordinary happened. She gave up her experiments with the paranormal after that incident. It seemed like the story was finally behind us, and for a while things felt normal again. But after some time had passed, she called me, her voice trembling with emotion, and told me that it had come back. I didn't immediately understand what she meant, but she reminded me about that video and those pictures. This time she was at a bachelorette party at her friend's place, and later they showed her photos from the party. She said that in every photo where she appeared, that face showed up again, surprised, with a faint smile and huge black pupils. And this was despite the flash and the fact that everyone else in the frame had red eyes except for her. At the time, I brushed it off. I decided that after that incident, her nerves had gotten a bit frayed, and I told her not to pay any attention to it, that those photos couldn't do anything to her. Besides, I had just gotten interested in a girl, and I didn't have time to listen to stories about something that had already been resolved so easily last time. If you don't like the photos, just delete them, that's all, I said, and said goodbye. I'm describing this incident 3 years after the events mentioned above. I didn't do anything back then and went out with the girl, something I deeply regret now. A few days later, my relative was found dead in her own bed. Her hair was completely gray, and as everyone who saw her said, her eyes were almost round with terror, and her whole face was streaked with dried tears. The door to her little apartment was ajar. At first, everyone thought someone had broken in, but everything was in order, and there were no signs of a struggle. The door was scratched up and had been forced open from the inside. I spent a long time thinking about what had happened. I couldn't sleep at night. In a way, I became paranoid. I started to feel like something might happen to me as well. She was buried 6 months ago, and yesterday I received a photo from that party in the mail, sent from an unknown address. She was looking at me, with large, huge pupils and grinning widely.